Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Sam Wakefield. Sam is an expert in sales and in personal development and has a new offer or initiative where he is working on bringing traditional door-to-door sales to many markets that would traditionally or have been traditionally over-relying on just digital marketing and bringing back some real human connection for face-to-face conversation and door-to-door interactions. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Sam Wakefield. Sam Wakefield, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
I am excited to have you as a part of this show. I'm excited to talk about sales, but this is a different kind of sales that has been really ever talked about on this show. There's a lot of digital marketing or stage marketing. I'm excited to explore your perspectives. But before we dive into that today, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
100%. Yeah, I am of course, founder and CEO of a company called Close It Now. How I'm showing up in the world is I basically have become the mirror for helping people see their greatness inside themselves. It's a very different perspective from a sales trainer, sales coach, business coach than is normally out there because my focus is identity sales, permission based, and really dialing in to the inner workings of the brain and brain science and helping people understand that humanity needs authenticity, especially in the sales world in a way that hasn't happened in decades, truly. One of my favorite expressions in the way that I end my podcast is work to become someone worth buying from. And when that happens, the people that buy from you, they up level along with you. So that's how I'm showing up in the world. I'm basically have become the mirror to help people see greatness that's already inside themselves and then help to pull that out of them to rise to a new standard.
Very cool. Wow. I'm really curious. I guess you defined it a little bit, but maybe more directly. I've never heard identity sales before. And so yeah, I would love for you to define it and tell us a little bit about that philosophy or technique.
Yeah, it's something that it dawned on me very, very early on in my career. I've been in and around sales and mostly in the home improvement, home services space, and studying so many books, listening, going through courses, listening to all the things, and on my own personal growth journey, it dawned on me very early on that it's who you are and the way that you present yourself to the world is how people respond. And so what I mean by identity sales and diving into that is everybody comes to my company, and the people that come to my company to work with them, the objective is different results. But you can't just get different results. Most of the other trainers, those types of things, here's a new word track, here's a question, here, answer it like this. But they act like there's a magic bullet or a silver bullet in personal communication and in sales, but there's not. So the way that I break that down is it's a matrix. So it's the identity matrix. If we want to change our outcome, we have to work all the way backwards and change our thoughts, because mostly your thoughts about yourself, your thoughts create your belief about yourself, and the way that you believe about yourself and who you are and what you're capable of. And a lot of it is what you're worthy of. Your thoughts about your belief about yourself creates your identity. And then out of your identity is where outcomes come from. So if we want to change our outcomes, we got to go all the way back and start with our thoughts, because that's the rudder that guides everything that happens in our life. It all starts internal, inside the mind.
And you mentioned being a mirror, being able to reflect this to people. And even like before we got on the call, you mentioned that there's some similarities, and I can see how some of the things that I do, like on this show, provide a mirror to reframe a story or like kind of a set of beliefs about oneself. When you hear your own story articulated a little bit differently, it's amazing that it can kind of change up some of your own internal settings. But how do you see yourself or provide a mirror to facilitate something like this, or changing your thoughts, or what happens beyond that?
That I love this question. This is a great podcast because nobody. I normally am the one giving the podcasts and asking the questions. So these thought-provoking questions for me will, of course, help with how I show up. But the way that I perceive it is if anyone can do it, anyone can do it. And so there's this inner in just incredible magic inside of every individual that most people don't even realize is there. And so one of the ways that, or several of the ways that I show up and that I work with people is, like I mentioned, starting with the thoughts, but helping them see perspective of what is possible. A lot of people they go through life and we all start out as kids with thinking that anything is possible. And then as people go through life, they start to get socialized, either the way they were raised or the socioeconomic class, all of these different things, some things they learn from their parents or from society. And the way that they think determines their outcome. So again, it's that same matrix. And then as I work with people, partially it is helping them realize what's possible. The second side of that, and to answer directly about being the mirror, is that's what a great coach does: is ask better questions to get better answers, but not answers for me, but ask questions so the person can really go introspective and recognize the greatness inside themselves to rise to the occasion. So that is that's there's a huge portion of this, of course, that the process that we go through. But in a nutshell, a lot of it is when we get asked different questions, just like what is happening here in this podcast. It forces us to think differently, and as we think differently, that's where the outcomes start to happen. But most importantly, when we start to think differently, the accountability to continue that path is the crucial part, because just about everybody in life has seen some bump of success periodically, but then old thinking starts to bring them back down. So especially because I've came from the heating and air world, one of the key components here is to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. So I help people to adjust to those new levels, and then we lock it in. And so it doesn't go backwards. And then what's the new level? What's the new level? What's the new level? So over time, if the new normal becomes whatever the new standard is that we're setting for ourselves. And that way, and again, that feeds into your belief about ourselves, and then the identity piece that we were talking about initially. And so it's hard to lay out exact steps in the amount of time that we have, but that's basically it. It's asking better questions and listening in a way that, and then reframing to them exactly what they said to help them see what's already there. They just have been blinded to their own greatness by all of the outside influences.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I see that like a very similar process in kind of an internal thing, where a lot of the people I work with, as a result of being a high achiever, they have a certain lens and judgments on their own history that acts like a filter. So when they're like, what story should I tell from the stage? There's like this very large part of their mind that's just redacted. They wouldn't want, it doesn't want to go there. But a lot of the times through, again, just kind of questions and exploring, and changing the meaning of the story to them creates really interesting. You can see the decisions start to change and compound. It's not just about being able to be better at a marketing or sales process, speaking on stage, but yeah, magical things happen.
No, I love that you mentioned the reframe. So much of it is, as we reframe it, it's frame control. It truly is what it is. It's never one of the favorite topics that I love to take people through is, it's never the thing that we're discussing. It's always the frame around the thing, setting the right context, setting around whatever it is that's being presented. It can be positive or negative. but it has to do with how is it explained? Why is it important? The frame around whatever the topic is determines the level of importance or unimportance that that is perceived. So in the same way, and here's a good example of things that a lot of people think are their restrictors or their constraints or what's holding them back. So many times we're able to help them see that's the exact reason why you can excel, because this has happened in your life or because of this situation or circumstance. Now you've developed the muscle or a skill that no one else around you has. So helping them see the greatness inside those moments as well, so they can use that as a springboard instead of a weight that's holding them back.
Yeah, I love that. So you have mentioned a little bit before this call and a little bit on this call of that you mentioned coming from like HVAC, and before you have a new company and niche and way that you are applying sales
Mm-hmm.
to and marketing to new areas. Can you tell us a little bit about the door-to-door world, and
Mm-hmm.
then tell us kind of help us connect how you're connecting everything we've already talked about before, and how are you applying this philosophy to door-to-door sales?
Oh yeah, love this topic. Thanks for asking. Backing up slightly to answer this question, so I've been in, like I mentioned, home services and home improvement for 20 years now. I started off years ago as the guy that didn't really think I was worth much, as the attic rat pulling ductwork in the hot Texas Panhandle attics, for a couple years, and then moved into some different elements. So fast forward to now, and for a lot of years in my industry, we didn't even understand what door to door meant. We just thought it was we're above this and all these types of things, until I realized I spent 3 years in the solar industry, and I realized that you can just walk around and talk to people and become a millionaire. It's like, wait a minute, how does this work? And so, you mean I don't have to spend crazy money marketing online? I don't have to do all of these things that, I guess my biggest revelation in that journey, and this will tie into where we're headed, is when people get in, either an entrepreneur or they get into sales at whatever level, either somebody's an employee or the business owner, the leader. Just about every business truly is a sales organization that just happens to do whatever it is that that company does. And so, with that being said, what I realized was we get into these moments where all of these stories that we tell ourselves from, again, from society, from all of these things, the things that we think we can are allowed to do and are allowed to not do in our businesses, the way that we go to business. This is why when we see somebody that's maybe a business mogul that completely disrupts a market, everybody goes, "What in the world are they doing? They're doing things so differently." Well, it's just somebody who didn't tell themselves those limiters that everybody else has just adopted as the accepted norm. So one of the ways that the biggest revelation I had is in business, in sales, as long as we don't lie, cheat, or steal, of course, as long as we're doing things with integrity and legally, morally, and ethically sound, as long as those components are in place, those are the only rules. So I'm here to bring this message to entrepreneurs and business owners and salespeople that there are really no rules in this game. And so, with that being said, that's why I have launched it's called the Door to Door Institute, to bring door to door canvassing marketing to a space that has traditionally never done that, because they didn't think it was possible. But I'm here to say it is possible, because again, there's no rules with this. And the special part of this, and the reason why it's so important, starting mid 2023, there was this huge shift after the pandemic. The pandemic for home services, home improvement, was the biggest boom that's ever happened globally in those industries, because people were staying home, so they realized how screwed up their houses were, so they had to fix them. And so that was a huge boom. Well, mid 2023, things started going back to normal. Call volume dropped by 30 to 40% from the digital world, so just buying leads online. A friend of mine that's actually a partner in this business that owns a digital marketing agency calls it digital heroin. The internet made it way too easy for companies just to hit buy a lead, and they got away from building a brand. And true lasting companies build a brand. And so what we're doing is we're combining these elements and taking it to a place where no one is doing this right now, but we're organized, we're running it like a true structured campaign instead of just, well, let's just go knock a few doors and see what happens. So we're actually bringing something magical to this place where since the pandemic, everything has moved so digitally. Our world, that we're in one of the biggest mental health crises that's ever happened globally out of the pandemic because of the digital, because the lack of interpersonal communication. So what we're finding is not only with the rising cost of digital, where guerrilla marketing and that type of campaigning is paying off in great returns right now, especially the companies that are winning around the world are the ones that are going to business as if the internet didn't exist and then only supplementing with digital. And when you combine that with this a whole society that's starved for interpersonal communication, when we actually taken it to the streets, so to speak, and having belly to belly, real world, look you in the eye conversations, all of that is culminated into this huge momentum right now that is changing the game and really disrupting the market for home services. So there's a long answer to your short question.
Perfect. Several things. Just as a mirror for me, I think it's rare. It reminds me of the story of I guess like the two cobblers that went to the country and nobody had any shoes, and one was like, there's no hope, and one was like, they don't have shoes.
Mm-hmm.
When you said, I can just walk around and become a millionaire, where I think most people in the face of like door-to-door sales would be like, oh, it's just like that. It's like, that's a terrifying thing. In the same way, I guess the same thing occurred to me of I can get up on stage and like talk and like
Mm-hmm.
share my stuff and because I was a singer-songwriter for a while, so it kind of made sense in the same way. But I think it's rare to see the opportunity there and to see where people see opportunities is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I would like to know, you said there are no rules in the game, and if you could, you've articulated kind of one of them from digital. But what are some of the other rules that these companies believe, and what problems are they causing?
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. I've said for a lot of years, anything that's been done the same way for, 30, 40, 50 plus years is ripe for revolution. And that's truly what's happening right now. You
Hmm.
can look at any industry and see legacy models that are being broken, especially here in 2025. This is just the age of disruption. We're seeing it happening everywhere. And so that's the premise for a lot of my found. I've never been the guy that does things the same way just strictly because it's been done that way. I'm always looking to innovate, make things more efficient, etc. And so from that lens is where a lot of this comes from. So some of those misconceptions, I mean, for example, one of them, and I remember when I had the same idea, it's like, well, people need us because it's a need based. So for example, taking it back to HVAC, it's a need based industry. And so because people need us, we don't have to do the same amount of work that other industries have to do to go find business. They just come to us. Well, that's fine if you want to stay small and have a very limited amount of business. But if we understand that we're a sales organization, we have to constantly be finding new people to talk to. And so that's one of the misconceptions. One of the misconceptions is, and the rules that we tell ourselves that don't exist are, it's going to ruin the reputation of the company. How are they going to perceive us? What are they going to think about us? What are they going to think about me? And that's again from a very scarcity minded, self-focused perspective,
Hmm.
or the idea that, well, I don't like it if somebody knocks on my door. And I always push back and challenge them. I was like, anytime somebody tells me that, normally if I ask deep enough questions, at some point in time, they have purchased something from somebody who's knocked on their door. And so then my question is, so it, one, that proves that this type of marketing works. And two, you don't like when people knock on your door strictly because maybe you were in a bad mood that day, not because you aren't going to answer the door, not because you don't want to. It just happens to do with the situational awareness of what's happening in the moment. And they're like, oh, you know what? You're right. And so it's more about reframing these misconceptions and missed ideas and helping them realize that, it's very much those limiters that they gave themselves, because once they see what's truly possible and it's proven, then the facts are the facts. And so many times that helps to bust down a lot of the barriers that, we just keep our own self small-minded,
Yeah.
sometimes unintentionally, only because somebody's never shined a spotlight into the dark corner.
Maybe I'm cynical, but do people answer their doors these days? I kind of feel like I'm afraid that they don't. Or at best, they'll like peer at you through their phone on the Ring doorbell and be like, get out of here. Are
You
people
know,
answering their doors?
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it depends on the market and those kind of things. I was on a call with somebody yesterday. We were comparing different markets around the country. Markets that are very, maybe crime heavy. No,
Hmm.
not so much. That's not you. We have to know your market. You're not going to take this specific style into an area that has the highest crime rate in the country. Of course, it's not the same. But
Hmm.
for the most part, in general, one of the other misconceptions is you're going to run into so many people like, get off my lawn, and pulling guns on you and those types of things. That's so rare. But those, of course, are the one story that gets told.
Hmm.
So, absolutely. In fact, what I've noticed, doing canvassing and knocking thousands of doors myself in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, is the more that we move into where we are in our society being so digital, the more that I'm finding people are happily stepping out into the front yard and just having a conversation. And most of the time, or a lot of the time, it's not about why you're even there. They just want somebody to talk to. And so being a
Wow.
true, authentic person and just showing up as your happy self is really the making the connection. And then if it turns into, some scheduling an appointment or some sort of business transaction, that's almost the secondary reason why you're there, because you just show up to be a great person, be an awesome individual that just happens to pop into somebody's life for a few moments. And it's incredible some of the things that happen in those conversations. Some of my friends now I met in this process. The amount of people that are welcoming and, hey, do you need to use the bathroom, or can I get you some water, or hey, here's a snack. It just, the number of times that I've had to go back to my car to drop off water bottles because people keep giving me water bottles
Hmm.
is living proof that it's almost a refreshing type of an experience for them to break up the monotony of their day. So that's the perspective that we approach this with.
I guess this is just another case of the cobblers and the shoes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Where,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
huge opportunity. There's
Uh-huh.
nobody has shoes. We have an open market.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about like what are the advantages of this philosophy versus I think we almost entirely think digitally now.
Mhm.
So yeah, what particular advantages does this provide to a company like this?
So here's the really cool part about it. So there's again two pieces to this. One is, when we think digitally, we think moving fast is, oh, we're going to see traction here in a few weeks. What most people don't realize is if I train somebody today, I can have him go out and find me not just a lead, but an actual qualified appointment today that can get scheduled for today. So especially when a company needs revenue, this is the fastest, lowest cost way to do it. So that's one aspect. So speed to lead is huge here. The second piece of this is cost of new client acquisition. And this is, if as listeners, if you don't know this metric, it's really important to have. So you take your entire total cost of all of your leads that come in, that conversion rate, and when somebody actually transacts with you, you divide all those out. That's your cost of new client acquisition. How much did it cost you to get that one? And so this is the lowest, usually at about a tenth of the cost of every single cost of new client acquisition from digital. It's usually about a tenth of the cost per appointment per new client with this method. So it's insanely low cost to do this, and it happens at scale. We were running some really rough numbers yesterday. A team of 5 canvassers can go out and in a 3-day campaign set between 80 and probably 100, somewhere between 80 and 120 appointments, qualified appointments on average in a 3-day time span. You cannot do that anywhere else as a company that's doing attraction marketing and finding leads, et cetera, if you're this type of a home improvement, home service company. So it's an enormous amount of volume that nobody really ever expects until they step into this world. Now, the sweet spot and what makes what we're doing special is one of the partners in this business does own a digital marketing company. And so what we're bringing to the table is air support. So weeks before we show up at the door, we're doing direct mail, we're doing hyper targeted social media, we're doing all of the things that come up when you're streaming services. So before we ever show up, that company is getting in the face of the exact hyper target market that we're going to be after. So they're no longer cold knocks, they're warm knocks. And this is what's supercharging this, and this is the combination that no other company is doing right now. So that it's changing the game and the results. The other side of this, what this does, it makes your online ad spend go dramatically further, because now we're focused on creating a brand first. And then when brand awareness increases, now organic traffic goes through the roof because they know who to ask for by name. So they complement each other in such a way that nobody's really ever combined this. Traditionally, it's been one or the other. Either we do digital or we do canvassing. Nobody's ever put them together and said, hey, these can work together. They don't have to fight each other.
Mm-hmm. So that means we've got a lot more clients. What else does this like result in for the people that you're working with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what it does is it turns the model right side up. Most home service, home improvement companies or trades, their business works upside down. And what I mean by that is they fix they get their people trained on how to fix the stuff first, and then they get the other systems and processes in order, and then they have no revenue left to focus on training their salespeople, selling at a higher rate, closing at higher percentages, higher average tickets. And so then they're stuck because it's a chicken and the egg. Well, I know I need to hire people, but I can't until I have more leads to be able to feed the salespeople, to be able for my technicians to do the work, et cetera. So what this model does and what it solves for every single one of these organizations is we're giving them a metric. One, we're solving the sales issue first, because with revenue, you can afford to do all of the things in your business that you need to. So when you start with the first things first, it's like the classic quote, was it Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, all the classics, nothing happens until something gets sold. You don't have money for anything else. And so we're fixing that first, but on a grand scale. And then what our process is, the minute that you have you've solved the lead problem, we've solved the appointment problem at a very low cost to do it. So then what this is going to do, it's going to help companies scale so dramatically faster, because the minute that is solved, it's what is a huge amount of volume going to do? Well, now it's going to break the next thing and next weakest link in the chain. Okay, are we converting? What's the sales like? Well, perfect. Okay, so we need training here. And traditionally, instead of being, oh, do we have the money to hire a coach, hire a trainer, implement a system? Now it's simple. It's like, okay, well, let's just do another blitz. That'll pay for it. And then when that gets fixed, okay, what's the next thing that breaks? It's operations. Okay, well, what coach, what system do we need here? How do we pay for it? Let's do another blitz. Sell more product. Converts through, now we can afford this. And so we're giving people an ecosystem to self-fund every bit of the rest of their business in the correct order now. And that's a huge part of the education portion of what we're building in, is to teach companies and owners how to set their company right side up instead of upside down. And then it self funds every bit of the way. So it's basically free plus profit at every single step of the process.
Amazing. Okay. Now, Sam, I want to hear about a story from a moment in your life where you felt upside down. Where maybe you were over relying on an old model or an old
Mhm.
philosophy that was getting more expensive and more challenging, and you were feeling the strain and limitation of that. And yeah, it was probably working well before and you don't know what to pivot to. And maybe the other options don't seem that good. When have you had an experience like this?
Yeah, that's boy, that's a good one. There was, I'm going to point back to the moment in, you know what? Let's tell this story. There was the where when I was in the field, as doing sales in the field for companies as an employee, there was two major places where I was working. One was in a small town America in the Texas Panhandle, and then after I sold my company there, I moved to Austin, Texas, and it became sales manager, sales trainer with a moderately small organization. We were less than 3 million a year, and I went to work and helped the owner grow the company 4x in about 3 years. So we went to over 8 in 3 years. And the pivotal moment there was really the reason, and it was the moment that I started Close It Now. And started the podcast and started the coaching company and training company was I had two people in my team that I sent off to a sales training. They were new, so I sent them to a sales training at a moderately well known, pretty reputable organization that does business coaching and training. They came back a week later, and $12,000 cost for us to get them there, with these slide decks, with these books that had the exact same slides. Not a single slide had been changed from when I had personally taken that course about 7 or 8 years prior. And I was like, this is awful. Throw this in the trash. Nobody buys like this anymore. So that was this moment that dawned on me that, and out of that, I started looking around at any other training or thing, whatever was available in the marketplace at the time. And there was nothing that was current. It was all this legacy model based in always be closing, force feeding people exactly what you think they should have type of sales. And it was gross to me. And so that was the moment where I pivoted and said, okay, in order to get changes, we have to make changes. And so that's truly what I did. Is there wasn't anything at the time, so I developed it. That's when I started writing the process. And the new model is very, very much the identity sales we were talking about. It's the emotions. And so going to business that way, I was at the time reading Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Hermosi and Give Value First. I just finished Jab, 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 Right Hook and Crush It and these Gary Vaynerchuk books. And so this has been, instead of just buying ads and going out and doing things, this has been my model all along. That's why I love guerrilla marketing. It's okay, I'll start a podcast. Podcasts are free to start. 6 months into the podcast, because I was just giving value, investing in emotional bank accounts. 6 months into the podcast, the first person messages me and says, I'll throw money at you. I don't care what it costs. I want you to coach me. And then I was like, okay, this is the moment I've been waiting for. Now it's time to turn on my coaching program and start talking about it. And so it's been a very slow, intentional build, because I didn't want to be the guy that's, standing on the rooftops and yelling and, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, but didn't have results to back it up. Because there's too many people like that especially in, business coaching and sales training spaces, the gurus, so to speak. And so coming at it from a completely different perspective I think that was the big revelation. Is again going back to looking how everyone else does it, and go the other direction. If everybody goes left, we go right. I'm very much a big fan of Jay Samet's book Disrupt You. And it's like, how can we disrupt a market? If you can disrupt a market that makes some serious noise, but also do it in a way with it, like I mentioned, integrity, and in a way that is the quiet, calm confidence that people, they stand up at attention when someone shows up and they're not boisterous, when someone shows up and says, I know who I am first, and my identity speaks louder than the words I'm saying. And that was the moment that really transitioned into, it was the springboard for everything I'm doing now, was that huge revelation in that, through that process.
Mhm. When was a time where you, preferably after this moment, well, definitely after this moment, where you experienced the effect of like speed to lead and kind of this like harmony between a new counterintuitive idea and maybe combined with a legacy idea?
Mhm.
That same flywheel effect and able to self-fund your business in your own life, in your own experience.
Yeah, that I think probably one of the best examples of that would come from, of course, after that started happening, we're a ways down the road. That happens now in really truly what's going on the way I'm going to market. Well, another good example is I'm also sales director for a company called Your New Door, and we're very much breaking all of the legacy models with that organization. So for ever, home services, home improvement, sales is done in the home. You go out. The traditional model is okay, call us up, we go out, we measure, we go through the sales process. And for most homeowners, there's this element of, oh, I don't want to have to go through the three bids process. I don't want to have people in my home over and over and over. And you never know who you're going to get. You never know if they're quality or if they're scumbags, all these types of things. It's these concerns of who's coming into my home, disrupting my space, all of these things. And so this is a good example of legacy's model being shifted because everything we do here is now pricing is up front. You don't have to go through the dog and pony show to hopefully get a price that's worth working with, or let's use car negotiate until we come up with something. And so pricing is up front, it's transparent, and at the same time, every appointment's done on a video call. And so we just lay it out. Of course, there's a process, and we're going to find out what the pain points are. So we're completely breaking the model that most people think in-home sales has always had to have been, and say no, there's a much easier, faster, better way. And so stripping away a lot of the extra fluff and all of the, we have to create this extraordinary high perceived value to, and fingers crossed they're going to buy from us. No, we're just being authentic and being real and calling out the elephants in the room and saying, here's who we are, here's what we do. You can work with us, and here's how you can work with us, and here's how simple it is.
Can you give me a tangible, real moment of that? Like an actual occurrence of that you can
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah, actually, yeah, sure can. So, I mean, as far as the tangible, real moment, the proof is in the numbers. The organization right now, we do zero outbound marketing. It's every bit of it is, so no dollars spent there. Every bit of it is organic traffic. And this week, the every single day, the sales calendar has between 12 and 20 appointments daily, um, every single day. And so this is from organic traffic of people coming to us to solve this problem because the word has gotten out about how easy it is to work with us, and they don't have to go through all of those excruciating pain points of what I was just going through. And so that tangible moment is the minute that I stepped in and saw what type of organic traffic we're getting, and
Mhm.
without a process, even without really, what my role is, of course, to make things better. But we're closing at 40% now because people just instantly see the value right away because of the experience. And I think the bigger tangible moment is delivering an experience to a consumer that makes them feel special, and people are after the experience, and that's so much has to be there in the process. So it's not just order taking. If we help people, we make people feel special. Was it Brian Tracy used to always say, or Zig Ziglar said, everyone has a sign above their head that says make me feel special. And when we can truly do that and show up and serve at the highest level, that's real, that's truly what happens. So as far as a tangible moment, could be dawning on me when I was initially working with this company at first and seeing what the board looks like based on how the clients have felt and what their experience is like, and so much of it is referrals. It's not because we've went and bought new traffic. It's referrals because we take
Perfect.
care of people at the highest level. And that was a big moment of this can only get better, but wow, look at what's happening now because we truly care and truly take care of people the right way.
Are you ready to hear your story?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I can remember some of the first moments of seeing the opportunities of door-to-door sales, thinking to myself, I can just walk around and become a millionaire. I was immediately inspired by the connections, the conversations, being outside, and I began to master this craft. I've worked in many different places all over the country, and I found myself in Austin, Texas, as a sales trainer for a small organization. We just experienced explosive growth, and we were hiring new people. These hires were often expensive because we are doing a lot of different things, and we really need these people to work and perform. And not only is bringing them on board, but we have to train them. We spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for this training. And they come back with some binders and some clipboards and some workbooks. And I look at them and my jaw drops because this is the same material that I studied years ago, word for word, page for page. Things haven't changed, but I certainly know I've changed. The old tactics and ways of selling people, always be closing, push, push, push. It's terrible. It's ruining reputations. It's
Mm-hmm.
making harsh impact. And this is the thing that I just spent thousands of dollars on, and I need to work. I remember grabbing those binders and throwing it out and deciding that if this was the only education that was out there, that there had to be a better way. And this began a journey that would change the course of my life. I wanted to rewrite all of the perceived rules in this game. I wanted people to be able to see the possibility of connection, to be able to sell with authenticity, with kind intentions rather than just trying to push things. I started giving a podcast, exploring these ideas, documenting this thought, and people started showing up, wanting to learn more about these techniques. And over time, I started to blend together many of the best things of sales in the digital and the analog world into something that was bringing together the best of the new and the old in a way that supported me. The first morning, I can remember coming back to a company and having a sales team trained in a way that I knew I could trust and rely on, and knowing that I could just send one person out and get a lead in that same day. I experienced like a freedom and a possibility for the first time that I could scale my business the way I needed, that I could grow the way I needed, that maybe I could take an extra week of vacation because I can count on my sales process. And I thought about the possibilities. And for me, it was backwards sales training and seeing the stagnancy of that industry that led me to making some of the biggest changes of my life. And for all of you out there, that is the same thing that we've just experienced in the digital marketing world. The way that you've been buying leads, which worked really well in the pandemic, and we've become over reliant on them and simply trying to expect that people will just come to you, or expect that business will just come to you, or only thinking that digital marketing is the way. This is the same stifling. And today I'm going to teach you how you can create the same process for yourself, that you can build a way to reliably get leads at a lower cost of acquisition and faster than you thought possible. And we're going to show you how to scale your business with it today.
That is fantastic. I love it.
Thank you.
This timing couldn't be any better.
Good, good. Well, we just have a few more minutes before the top of the hour, and it's been so much fun exploring this with you. It's an absolutely interesting and unique episode. Do you have any closing thoughts for us today, and where can we go to learn more about you, Sam?
The closing thoughts are I appreciate this process so much, and thank you for walking me through it, because if there's anything that I think a listener could get out of this is in the same way that you just help to clarify the messaging and to break it down into a simple story arc that goes through the process. We recognize the pain points, we recognize what the solution is, and how we can show up in that. I think anybody listening would apply that to exactly what you're doing. Is like how constantly be playing this. I love to gamify stuff, but constantly be playing this game in your own mind of, can I say this in less words and still get the message across as clearly as it was in the version that had more words in it? But how can we simplify but keep the same message, keep the same level of impact? So I guess one of the biggest things that I tell everyone is slow down, be curious, ask more questions, and really show up to pay attention to them, not you. Pay more attention to them, not your own process. And the more that that focus shifts to helping and serving who you're working with, that is the biggest game changer of everything with that clear message. So that's the last words that I would share with everybody. And yeah, where people can go to get a hold of me. Of course, if they'd like to listen to the Close It Now podcast, there's over 250 episodes now of, I dive into just sales philosophy, this type of content, but in depth. We walk through a ton of different things. So closeitnow.net is the website. Of course, the branding is very consistent everywhere. Close It Now is the name of the podcast. And then to learn more about the Door to Door Institute, which is the name of the new company. And actually I have a free giveaway for everybody that's listening as well. I just wrote a guerrilla marketing guide to have a consistent flow of leads without spending a dime online. And so when you go to door2doorinstitute.com, that's DOOR, the number 2, DOOR institute.com, and we just have a small landing page. That guide is your free gift. And then once we, that is a massive value. Everybody I've showed it to says, holy cow, you're giving this away for free. That's when I knew I'd put enough value in it to give it away for free. And so there's a ton of ideas in that guide that will help you explode your business without spending a dime online. And also, that's going to get you into the notifications. October 24th, we're having our launch event. We're only taking 50 owners. We're locking that event at 50 business owners that want to learn more about how we're going to be able to show up at your facility with rock stars and put appointments on your calendar at the greater rate and quality than you've ever seen. And so that's going to be October 24th in Dallas, Texas. But door2doorinstitute.com. That's DOOR, the number 2, DOOR institute.com. And so Close It Now and Door to Door Institute, we're very much changing the game, disrupting the market, and doing things differently.
All right, Sam Wakefield, thank you so much for joining us on the Story Engine podcast.